Hello, everyone. This is Al Fadi, and welcome again to a continuation of this series on refuting the claim about scientific miracles that are found in the Quran. So far, we have enjoyed actually pointing out the many errors in these claims and using science, of course, and sometimes even the Quran itself is intended one thing and our Muslim friends are taking it the other way. For instance, the example about that the sun and the moon have their own basically orbit, when in fact, if you read it in context, within all the passages in the Quran that deal with it, you discover that that's not the case. The case is like they're chasing each other on the same orbit. So right there, the Quran itself actually is making not just a scientific error, but a factual error as well. And today we are going to talk about this idea that meteorites, when you see shooting stars, that mean that the heavenly beings, angels, God, are throwing rocks at Satan or his demons who are attempting to eavesdrop on what's going on in heaven. And with me here is Dr. Jay Smith to address this.
Yeah, I mean, just that right there is rather silly. Even as you were saying it, I was smiling listening to it. It's rather one of these odd things that the Quran comes out with, and I think these are nothing more than folk tales or tales that were in existence there in Arabia. The references you can that refer to this are Surah chapter 15, verse 16 to 18, chapter 37, verse 6 to 10. Chapter 55, verse 33 to 35, chapter 67, verse 5, chapter 72, verse 6 to 9, and chapter 86, verse 2 to 3. So multiple times it keeps coming back with this recurrent theme.
Right.
And what they're saying, and when you go to the traditions, there's jinn. Now, who are jinn? Explain jinn to people. What are they?
Well, jinn is like, Islam, by the way, teaches that there are angels, there's no fallen angels, and then you have Satan, right?
Yeah.
And made basically from a different substance, and then you have jinn also that involves some sort of a spirit's fire.
They're made out of fire.
Yeah,
and sometimes they're malevolent, sometimes they're sometimes they're docile. So they're not really evil, yet they can do evil things.
And they can convert to Islam.
They can convert to Islam, but it's fascinating. They are inanimate, because they can appear and disappear.
Yes, and you don't see them. I mean, they tell you that they're around you, but you don't see them.
There are some, you can even get some photographs of that have been photographed. People have taken pictures of beautiful rock outcroppings when they develop, and there's a jinn staring at them out of the rock.
And Muhammad, in honor of jinn, he conducted an entire chapter named after them.
So they're mysterious beings that are riddled right through the Quran.
Right.
But what's fascinating is this idea, according to their traditions, they would go to the heavens to hear their Quran recited. And as they're trying to listen to the Quran recited, Allah or God or the angels toss these meteorites. Now we know them as meteorites or asteroids, right. The large ones that go in the distance. And you see them almost every night. You can go up and you can watch them. In fact, sometimes in the springtime in Britain, we would go out around February, around this time, around March, and you could see whole showers that would come through. And they'd say, the showers are coming through. It happens on a yearly basis as we're going through a tail of a large asteroid.
Right.
And so you see an enormous amount of them, and they're always going the same direction. They're all going the same direction. And I used to think so only the jinn would only ever go to listen to the Quran on that time of the year. That in and of itself is laughable. But stop and think. Meteorites are made out of carbon dioxide. What are jinn made out of?
Well, we just said, I mean, it's intangible material.
Intangible material. So how could carbon dioxide chase them away? It would just go right through them.
And the other interesting thing, I mean, I just mentioned to you that according to the teaching of the Quran, that jinn could convert, right? Mm-hmm. So if they're eavesdropping on Quranic recitation, isn't that like witnessing to them?
That's pretty good. Why chase them away?
Exactly.
Bring them home.
Exactly.
So it's illogical on top of that. I mean, it's fascinating. You can see looks like it's a good tale. It's been around. This is a good Arab tale. And if we did a little bit more research, we could probably even find the source for it. And yet those kind of borrowings that we have found all over, we talked about the number 7 in the last episode. We've talked about Hippocrates, talking about where the milk is made and where the bees, the whole thing with bees, completely misconstruing what the Greeks were saying and incorporating and putting it into the Quran. Borrowing all the time. Be careful what you borrow. We're going to see a big one coming up yet to come, then the embryological cycle. Because if you borrow a mistake, the mistake comes with the borrowing. In this case, this is a real mistake. So
Right.
what they say is a proof is turning, once again, have you noticed, in every case, these proofs have turned into mistakes. The bee was very clear
Exactly.
about where the honey is made. That was a seemingly innocent borrowing from Hippocrates turns into an enormous mistake because Hippocrates got it wrong, which makes sense. How could he have known really that the bees didn't make the honey in their own belly? So things like that we are now bringing up, not proofs, mistakes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you're used to the Bismillah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, right? You know that there is something called ta'weed, or where you would start by saying, A'udhu billahi min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. Shaytan rajim, Satan who is, chased by missiles. So you ask a Muslim sometimes, do you know why he's called this way? And sometimes they don't even know. I mean, when you even mention to them, this is because the Quran says that shooting stars are thrown at him. That's why you are invoking the name of Allah so that He protect you from the Satan who has been, chased by these missiles.
By the asteroids
and it's
and
like some of them look at you like, I didn't even know that. So even to them, it sounds strange. And the idea, by the way, when you go to Hajj and you go to these 3 pillars and you throw rocks in honor of what Abraham supposedly have done when Satan was chasing him to prevent him from offering his son as a sacrifice. So he was throwing rocks at him. And they're doing it that way. So was Satan appearing as a human being, as a person, as a body? How did that happen? And where did the story come from to begin with?
May I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
Why are there 3 Satans?
Well, that's a good thing because supposedly the journey took 3 days. So every day he was doing this, and that's why you have a pillar for every day. Now, the 3-day journey is taken out of the Bible.
I'm still going to ask you again. I'm going to push back on this. Why are there 3 pillars?
Well, that's the idea.
Or are there 3 goddesses? Is this part of the satanic
you know.
verses? Alat, Almanat, and Aluza.
It's quite possible.
Can you see, even when you look at that, you need to go back to pre-Islamic times. You need to go to the Nabateans, who have the 3 goddesses. It could be that this is nothing more than a Nabatean borrowing.
Or myth, you know.
We're gonna. There's a whole pile of these historical anachronisms we're going to do in a whole nother series.
Absolutely.
That's going to come up, and one of the things we're going to do in that series, we're going to look at all the practices that happened in Mecca and see how almost every one of those practices can be traced back to Nabatean times.
Amen. And one of the things that I'm doing also in my own work is I'm trying to make a connection between some of the possible readings in early Quranic manuscripts with that region as well. Because there are certain markers that you can look at and that can indicate this. So you see what's going on. We are in a new era, and there is a lot of information out there, archaeological, manuscript evidence, linguistic evidence, and many other sources that we can rely upon to begin to make connections. Because I want my Muslim friend to ask himself sometimes these questions. Where did this practice originate from? Don't tell me the Quran said so. No, we need to know, where did this practice originate from? What's the significance about, like we heard, 3 pillars, throwing stones? Now, the Quran never said anything, by the way, about Abraham being chased. These are stories that came about to explain things. We don't know when these stories came about. When did they emanate? Who is the source of them? Did they exist before the time of Muhammad or after the time of Muhammad? And the list can go on and on and on. So once again, hopefully you'll find in this series that pretty much is intended really to refute these scientific miracles. And the more we do it, myself and Jay, we're discovering more substance for other series as well. So thank you for joining us, and have a blessed day. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, hit the bell so that you don't miss future videos. And please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/Sira International. And together we can introduce Muslims to the gospel of Jesus Christ. Thank you.